In the past, what our dealerships have asked us to do, we'll call it the road to the sale. I think that's a term that's still being used. The dealerships have asked us to do the road to the sale. So the meet and greet, counsel and qualify, walk around, demo drive, trial close, whatever you've learned, there's multiple steps. But when a customer's called on the phone or they have a digital information request from either the BDC or the sales staff, the number one thing that the management's always wanted us to do is to get the customer in, to set an appointment. And that's fine. I'm not going to argue that point. I do want to make this point though. If I made $100,000 a year to set an appointment, even if the appointment didn't show up, if I could physically show my dealership that I set the appointment and the customer confirmed, whether they showed up or not, if you paid me $100,000 a year, I can set appointments. Woo, I am the best appointment setter of all time. But I've never seen a dealership that paid the salesperson $100,000 a year to set appointments. I get what the appointment's for. It is to maybe get the customer to show up. There's so many of you watching me right now that have set appointments, done everything the customer has asked you to do, and they didn't show up at all. And so there's a couple of things that I want to do, and I want to talk about how to get the people to come and buy a car. It is the year 2020 now, and all the information that the customer needs to make a purchase of the car is available digital. The only thing that they can't reference on their own is who they're going to buy the car from. I said that in the first section. I'm going to say it in the second, and I may say it in all the only thing the customer doesn't know when they start their request for information to purchase a vehicle is who they're finally going to buy the car from. And so to me, that means the most important thing to sell at the initial contact is you. So I don't get paid for appointments, I get paid for delivery. So everything I should do should try to narrow the customer down so that when they come into the dealership, that they take delivery of the car. In a future segment that I'm going to go through you with, I'm going to show you some physical things you can do to the car to increase the chance that the customer is going to buy the car when they arrive at the dealership. In the past, I call this the site survey, and it's a program that I wrote back in the 90s. You know, I always said, make sure that you approach the customer with your eyes before your mouth. Look at every single thing. Look at how they're dressed. Look at the interaction between a couple that's there. If there's two people there, are they talking? What are their gestures? Look at what they started looking at. Look at what they drove in. And I call that a site survey. It's to assess the overall situation before you begin your investigation. So this would be the investigation phase of any kind of sale. There are several things you need to look at. The make and the model of the car they came in. So let's make some general statements. If they're at a Toyota store and they're driving a Ford, then maybe they've decided to not buy a Ford this time. And there's something about the Ford, if they're looking at a Toyota today, there's something about the Ford that they think would be better if they bought a Toyota. So again, I'm making an assessment. I haven't spoke yet, but I'm looking at a Ford driver at a Toyota store. Interesting. I look at the model of the car. Is it a SUV? Is it a car? And I look at the trim level of the car. I mean, if it's a Camry and if it's an XLE, then I've got a buyer that appreciates the end of all of the accessories in a car. I want everything. Got a customer that comes in and they're in a car and it's a manual gearbox car and it's the base offering that year model, then that customer is looking at maybe a transportation need. Maybe they've changed, maybe they haven't, but I'm assessing off of their car. I look at I approach the customer and I look at the car. There's a lot of things that we don't do anymore that I was taught to do early on. I think doing the investigation on the trade is probably the most important thing that a salesperson can do. I'm never going to leave a customer at my desk or walking the inventory while I'm quickly jotting down the information off their car. I need them to be present. I need to ask them questions. I'm going to look at the miles of the car. And that right there, I've got a 4-year-old car with 60,000 miles. You know, in my great math skills, that customer drives about 15,000 miles a year. That's an assessment based upon the facts on the car. I look at the condition in the car. I look at the paint color. I look at the quality of the paint. I look for any repairs on the car. I mean, it's obvious if a car's been in an accident, you can see some dulling of the paint or overspray. I mean, you can look for that. I look for the tread of the tires. If there's no tread left on the tires, you might want to get ready because they don't want to buy another set of tires. They want to trade the car. I guess the next thing on the inside of the car, is there any kind of literature that they've printed from the internet? I mean, they gave me the keys. They let me look over the car. If they've got a printout of a Honda Accord on their passenger seat, then I know that I need to have some product information about the Accord. I also look in the center console, the glove box, and the trunk. If all three of these areas have no personal items in there, this customer is ready to buy today. If you open the trunk and it blows open like the little jack-in-the-box thing used to do, then you know that they're out looking around, and you may have, you know, a lot of effort to put them in a car today because they didn't get their car prepped for trade-in today. So that would what I would do if it was a site survey if the customer came to the dealership. But this is the year 2020 and we're in a digital age. So when the customer contacts the dealership and requested information on my 3-year-old certified Camry, then my information back is there going to be a trade, because I'd like to have some information, because the more we know about your trade, the more money we can get you for the trade. If they come back and say there is a possibility of a trade, then you ask the same questions. The make, the model, and the trim level. They'll tell you. And that lets you know what they bought and maybe when they bought it and what level of amenities are in the car. Ask them how many miles on the car, and ask them if they're going to stay with the car, or, you know, look at if they're trading a passenger car and you know they're looking at an SUV, you may ask them why the move to the SUV. Ask the customers for photos of the car. 4 is enough. An exterior shot, a front and back shot, and an interior shot. People take pictures of their phone all the time. They always have their phone with them. They're taking selfies of themselves. They got the selfie going on. And so what I want to do is I want them to walk out and take some pictures of the car. The more of these things the customer sends you back, the greater chance the customer is going to come in. Then I want to finish up by sending them information about me. I'm going to walk out to the car. It's so funny. I just got a text from one of the managers from one of the regions. They're currently, right now, as we're speaking, watching a video series, a webinar on the power of video. Really? You guys know the power of video. Customers looking at a 3-year-old 4Runner. The last thing you should send them back is, hey, I'm KC. This is the actual 4Runner that you're looking at. Want to let you know it is in stock. You're not going to show up and it's not here. And here's a couple of things I really like about this. I'm going to go to the next level, and then I'm going to shut this one down. In the not too distant past, I bought an FJ. Some of you guys watch my Facebook post about my FJ and my YouTube posts. That's an off-road vehicle. Whether somebody takes that vehicle off-road or not, it is made to be an off-road vehicle. Why wouldn't the salesperson slide under the vehicle and take a picture of the front skid plate, the center skid plate, and the frame rails of that vehicle and say, hey, I went to the next level for you. There is no rust on this vehicle, and there is not even one scratch on any skid plate under the vehicle. So this vehicle has never been off-road. It is ready for you to take it out and do what you want to do with it. So why would you not do that? The more you can do before the customer comes in, the greater chance they're not coming for an appointment, they're coming to take delivery of the car.